a while, Cher, either.
You're muted again, Cher.
All right, you guys are live on YouTube, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thankful Thursday.
Can you give me the link for YouTube so I can give it to someone?
A while, Cher, either.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're muted again, Cher.
All right, you guys are live on YouTube, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thankful Thursday.
Okay.
Give me the link for YouTube so I can give it to someone.
Yeah, my hang on. I mean, I know you didn't ask me that twice, but for some reason my mouse is just not working.
Happy wants to say hello to everybody.
We're always happy to see happy.
And I'm happy it's Thankful Thursday.
Me too. Are we ready, Lynn, or are you still?
Oh yeah, you're live on YouTube.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so good morning. Good morning, Lindy joined the room, and we already said hi to Lynn, Dove, and Sharon. And so lesson 51 is what we're on today, the first review. And, you know, I love the reviews. I love, yeah, you too, Cher, yeah. Love the reviews of lessons 1 through 50. I took a workshop one time on lessons 1 through 50, and they used the reviews. And it was one of the best workshops. It's like, if you do this, you've got the whole course, and it's just really cool. So starting with what Ken says about the review, I'm not going to do the introduction, but on lesson 51, Ken Wapnick says, before beginning, let me mention something that probably has eluded almost all students of A Course in Miracles, certainly the non-obsessive ones. Helen had insisted to Jesus that each of the one-sentence introductions to the day's review be different. And you will surely be impressed to discover how many different ways Jesus can say that the review for today covers the following ideas. Well, I never noticed that either. Okay, lesson 1, nothing I see means anything. And as Dove is very fond of saying, you do lesson 1, you've got the whole course. And I was saying that to someone the other day, and it's an experience for me. I go back to lesson 1 all the time. And when I'm upset with anything, it's like, go back to lesson 1. It doesn't mean anything. What means something in the situation is your love for the other person or the situation, the love of God. And what means something is the mind's power to choose. That's the only meaning. It's what we see with our physical eyes, form, never means anything. Okay, so Ken states, in these early lessons, Jesus emphasizes that what we see does not mean anything because what we see comes from misthoughts of judgment and attack. And if you think about that, misthoughts of judgment and attack, the whole beginning section of the course, lessons 1 through 50, are all about shifting our perception to realize, whoa, we're the ones projecting form. Oh my gosh, this world is not even outside of us. It's not an objective reality. It is our mind projecting all of our attack thoughts out. And you can say, well, wait a minute, what about the people I love? What about, my best friends or my lovers or my family members that I love? Are they misthoughts? Are they projections of attack? Well, the body part that seems to be lost when they drop their bodies, when they die, so to speak, that is an attack. Because think about it. If you think that your love is externalized and that your love is in that body or with that person, that body is going to die. It will, we know that there's no death, but in form, that body is going to die. And that's an attack on our reality. It's such a contrary thing to truth. And so when we think we can lose anything, and I don't know about you, but I know for me, anytime I've ever loved anyone deeply, the next fear is, oh, I'm going to lose them. And that's been my whole life. And you're nodding your head, Cher. It's like, yeah. And I don't know if you wanted to say something, Lynn, or if that just kind of came in. But yeah, it's like we love these, and then we think we have to attach to the form. So the blessing when our loved ones drop their bodies is to just deny the thought of loss. And one of the things that I've always gone back to in the course is lesson 184. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. It says loss is not loss when properly perceived. So when properly perceived, because if we perceive the body, we're not properly perceiving. If we think the body is real. So loss is not loss when properly perceived. Pain is impossible. All grief is without any cause at all, and suffering of any kind is nothing but a dream. This is the truth. And then it says that at first we won't believe it, we'll say it, but we don't believe it. But then we'll keep saying it over and over until finally it sinks in. And it hasn't sunken in 100% for me, but I can feel the percentage rising, that it has sunk in more and more and more and more. And the more it sinks in, the freer I am, because then I'm not freaking out like I'm going to lose this person, I'm going to lose that person, or I can't lose anything. And for a long time, that was a thought. I can't lose anything, but it didn't feel real. Now it feels way, 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 way more real. There might be a tad of ego in there, not a tad, sometimes more than a tad, but in general, it's true. That is true. And I'm so grateful for that, because if you look at child development and you look at babies that go through separation anxiety, as soon as a baby has any sense of awareness of itself as separate from the mother, because like for the first 9 months or so, it varies, but the first 9 months or so, the baby and the mother are one, and they don't see any separation. But the minute they see or recognize separation, what do? They go into separation anxiety. And what do babies do? They start screaming. They start screaming in terror when the mom walks out of the room. And sometimes they just can't be comforted for like a half hour. They're screaming. Well, that is, I love how our personal development echoes or is a metaphor for exactly what we did with God. And that's why I think A Course in Miracles is so powerful, because it uses psychological development theory to show us what we have done with our relationship with God. So the mom isn't gone. The mom's love isn't gone. The mom will never stop loving that baby, but the baby thinks that, oh my God, mom is gone. And now I'm in terror. And so you look at our whole lives, and nothing is ever totally lost. That's in everybody's psyche. And, so no wonder we're all messed up, when at the base of our psyche is this absolute terror. And the same thing, it's like we'll say that, oh, our natural state is joy and happiness. And look at kids, they're just happy and joyful. Yes, but if they're not fed, if they're not diapered, if they're alone and the mom is, or whatever caretaker is gone, they're not happy, if they're cold or too hot or whatever. So no, when the body's needs are demanding, which we know the body is one big demanding factory, they're not happy. So it's a matter of learning that body's needs are just taken care of. And this is something I'm relearning as this body appears to be aging. It's like this trust of, oh, well, that'll be taken care of. That'll be taken care of. I don't have to get scared that the body's needs are going to be unmet. So anyway, I've veered way off from nothing I see means anything. But the joy of that is I am so grateful that bodies mean nothing. I am so, so grateful for that. And like I've told the story here with my mom's passing, when spirit kept me down in Mexico, so I couldn't come home to be with the body as it died. When my mom said to me the perfect thing, you don't have to be here for us to be together. And it was like, thank you, Mom. What a gift that was. Okay, so in the review, it continues to say the reason this is so that nothing I see means anything is that I see nothing and nothing has no meaning. So I see nothing. And people will say, well, what are you talking about? I see all kinds of things. I see trees and I see bodies and I see houses and I see the sky. And what are you talking about? Well, all form is nothing, 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 nothing. And if you can get that all form is just an image, it's just projection, that's freedom. And there is no freedom other than that. No freedom other than letting go that what we think we see with the body's eyes is real. So Jesus goes on to say, it is necessary that I recognize this, that I see nothing, that I may learn to see. What I think I see now is taking the place of vision. I must let it go by realizing it has no meaning so that vision may take its place. And for a long time, I struggled with, well, what exactly is vision? Well, because it's not really tangible, but vision is the peace that we have when we recognize that we're dreaming. Vision is saying, oh yeah, my body's eyes are seeing these forms. I'm seeing walls, I'm seeing food, I'm seeing the bed, I'm seeing all bodies. But the vision is, and the body's eyes see forms, and the forms are just projections from the mind. So vision is that you know the truth behind all appearances. You know that you're dreaming. You're awake in the dream. So Ken goes on to say, while Jesus does not use the term here, he points out to us that we have a split mind. We have the capacity of seeing through the vision of the Holy Spirit, but to ensure that that does not happen, we cover those loving thoughts with thoughts of attack and separation. Thoughts of attack and separation, those are bodies, bodies, bodies. My body is in competition with yours for resources, shelter, food, clothing, all that stuff, money. Indeed, we cannot achieve the goal of vision if we do not first recognize and understand the inherent illusory and meaningless nature of our perceptions. It is these perceptions that we have deliberately chosen to take the place of vision, fulfilling the ego's purpose of protecting itself. Really, our separated self protecting its separate identity that prevents us from discovering the only meaning for being in this world, forgiveness. So the world is completely upside down. The only purpose and meaning here is to let go of the world. The only purpose for the body is to let go of believing in the body. The only purpose for time is to let go of time. So everything we've learned, throw it out the window. So I'm going to turn this over now to Sharon.
Good morning. Good morning. Today it's so cold and the snow is so beautiful. When you look out at snow, you just feel that silence. It's just it's a memory that we all have. And that's truly what we are. The way I see the course, it's like training wheels to just get us exit out of our conceptions, our conceptual framework that we believe is out there when it's in our mind. And so to me, to look at this world and to judge it, well, I'm guided today to look at the lesson, I do not understand anything I see, because that is in lesson 51. And I too love these early lessons. Now, the reviews are necessary, but I remember the ego in this character was having a fit that I had to go over these again. Well, the whole point in A Course in Miracles is we learn by repetition. So the ego is always going to bark at anything that it's not used to in its framework. However, I agree with Lorri. These lessons are everything. I mean, the first 50 lessons are the course. And Jimmy Twyman has a whole a musical thing on YouTube of the first 50 lessons. And sometimes I just do that through the day. And I love it. I love his voice. I love all these lessons. So anyway, he's saying, this is what Ken is saying, how could I understand what I see when I have judged it amiss? So this is in the course. What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. So is there really a brother out there? Or am I seeing thoughts and images? And an image is nothing but a photograph. So then the question is, why does it look so real? And that can't be answered because it's not real. It's an illusion, but because it's in God's mind, it appears real. And if I stay with the questioning of the ego, I will be there forever. Because as Dove says, understanding is like a booby prize. It keeps you in the evaluation of everything and trying to understand why you did this or why you did that. And what I love about the course is it's a psychological spiritual text. So it gives us all of the foundations. Some of us, like myself, love psychology, and I have always been drawn to understanding human behavior. But Jesus in the course cuts to the chase. So what I'm guided to this lesson is because this is the beginning of humility. Now, humility is when you really don't know anything and you ask. And the I know mind is always knowing what it believes and that it's right. And if it appears wrong in any circumstance, there's a problem in that because, well, let me just say that that right now in this world, I don't know what's happening. I could make up a story and say this is for our grand awakening, or this is because another thought concept about a judgment about a thing. But why would I want to do that? Because it's a distraction from here-ness, nowness. That's all that's really here is nowness and here-ness. It's, it is what it is. It's probably the best thing you could ever say. It's an isness. So without humility, I can't do this course. Because if I believe I know anything, and that's what Jesus is asking us all to just realize, we know nothing. And do we want the world? Because if we want the world, we will be stuck in it until the body leaves us. And that's not necessarily true for people that study this book, because there has to be some kind of interest in deep inside that it wants to know who we truly are. Our mind just doesn't want to think all these concepts and believe that they're true. So he's saying, we're always so sure we are right. What I see is what I see. What I hear is what I hear. And my understanding of a situation is what I say it is because I say it is. Now, here's the thing. You go to a doctor and the doctor right away doesn't understand belief, and it will give you a diagnosis. And you walk out of there, and all of a sudden you're back in the body believing in some way that you're hurting. But the best way that I can look at the body-mind as a vehicle, it's a communication device that we are communicating with our brothers and using it, but seeing everyone as wholeness and love is really the end game. And the end game can happen in any moment. So, the ego is always going to have judgments about what's going on out there. And it wants everybody, and it wants to call all the people that believe that they do. And I am guilty of that whenever I'm in the ego, because that's how we get oneness in the ego. We have people to agree with us. And the agreement that we make with these people is I'm right. I know, I believe, and I hurt, because that's what the ego is. The ego is all misery. Now, just a memory came up just now that I spoke to Suzanne de Kaiser. I think it was on Tuesday, yes. And she wanted me to tell everybody she misses you all, but she's been guided into silence. And that seems to be something that I'm being guided intermittently, because the concepts and to know and to say, well, he's a good course student or she's a good course student is still keeping you in phenomena. We are all the same. None of us are more advanced. We are in different places in the process, but what difference does it make when there's nobody here? It's just the voices. That's all there are. There's like a microphone of all these different voices with no form. And the form is all coming from the imagination. So he's saying if we are skillful enough, we get a multitude of people to agree with us. That is not sanity, but collective insanity. And that's what's really going on in the seeming world out there. And I feel as though for me, it's been an addiction. And it's been no different. My husband and I were talking last night that when we are upset with he doesn't do A Course in Miracles, but he knows enough to say that one finger pointed out there is three back at you because you're always looking at your own thoughts. So he does know that. And he was saying we are hurting ourselves to judge any of this. And if we had a story, seeming story from the past, that's really coming up for us to be let go of. Not to talk about it, not to care about it, but just to let it go. And that is the surrender process. Surrender in every moment that you don't know a thing. I mean, I could read these concepts forever. And the Course is very, it's really coming from Helen's mind. So she had a highly intellectual mind. So there's lots of thought. But these thoughts guide us to the silence. The essence of silence is absolutely beautiful. And to the ego mind, it's not beautiful at all. So he's saying, it's just so, it could just as be easy 10, 100,000 millions, if not billions, for we all share the same insanity. Yes, there's no ego that's special here. Every ego is crazy. Every ego is insane, and every ego hates. We definitely have ways of covering up our hatred. But and the rage that's in there. And why I loved Ken the most, I would say, and he I guess I consider him special, but again, that's just concepts. But why I do love him is because he's always directed all his, students to just slow down, to realize that you're not in a race. There's nobody out there but you. You're dreaming your character and everybody in it. And he said this takes time, and it is a process. And the thing that that I need to get to in every moment is when the ego comes up with some of its ingenious stories that I believe, I don't want to hear it anymore. I just want to let it go. I want to let it go because, at this point in my life, I already know there's nothing here. What are you going to get except another concept to be happy? All day long, we are just doing happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad, angry, happy, rageful, happy, being right, not right. That's all we're doing all day long. And that's where it becomes, a issue for all of us to say, okay. And I feel like sometimes, just yesterday I had beliefs coming up, and I believed for a while there. And I did, have my own judgments, but then I got to see that was just a drug no different than a drug that's put in your body, because you're putting it in your mind. You're allowing this mind, who really doesn't know us. It doesn't know what we are. It doesn't have any idea. And if the mind is not loosened, like where they're doing this work, they'll never see that. But it really doesn't make a difference because everybody is the same. This is like, the Big Bang. The Big Bang came and went, but we are just reviewing something that's already went by. So to worry, like when Lorri was mentioning the body, that is something that comes up for me. I could go on and on about symptoms I have right now, but the body mind really isn't me, because I am Lorri, I am Dove, I am Lynn, I am Cher. Every one of us is each other, even in form, if we just shut our eyes and see that it's the Tao through and through. So, therefore, we don't understand anything, nor go to anyone else for true understanding. If at any point we feel specialness, judgment, or separation, we should not trust anything we conclude based on those feelings. We will inevitably be wrong. So I want to bring that to my awareness. Specialness, number one, that is a problem. Why? Because we're seeing form. You can't see specialness with grace. Judgment, that is definitely in form. You can't see anything in judgment, the concepts. But when you see it as grace, there's no judgment. It's beautiful. Separation. I was substituting yesterday in a kindergarten class. So it was starting in the morning. I guess I got there about 8. And I went to almost 4. And I have to say that it was a lot of fun, but by 2 o'clock, the mind was really exhausted, the conceptual mind, and it came in with a lot of stuff. And when I got home, it was still going on and on. And I got to see that when I'm exhausted, when I have too much to do, I have to stop, pause for inspiration. And the inspiration truly is coming from spirit. Because when the body mind is exhausted, it gets a lot more dopey at the time. And the compassion, like true compassion, is to know I'm not here. But compassion for the character is one of the most helpful things you can have. Because the character itself believes it's real. And at least for me, I always believed that I'm the body. So now it's to a point where I'm saying enough is enough. I saw when I got tired yesterday for a couple hours after I got home, I saw how the ego was as feisty as a mouse. It was just all over the place. And it made no sense. And this came up in the middle of the night. A lot of times, it seems like I don't need as much sleep anymore, and I don't know why, because I'm wide awake after like 4 or 5 hours. And, I don't know if that's just part of the awakening process, because the fact that we are changing on every level of our mind, and if I get to speak again, I'm going to read a little bit about what I got from the book The End of Your World from Madhu Shante, because he's pretty much saying that when you completely wake up, this is all just ordinary, but you feel better. You just feel better. He said, in fact, a lot of people had made images about being holy and yes, there are teachers that present themselves with, different clothes to look like they're more spiritual. And it's all part of the illusion. Because even our awakening is still in the illusion. Until I see nobody in the mirror, my work's not done. That's all. Over to you, Doug.
Over to me. Wow. Okay. Thank you for all that you were sharing, and thank you so much also, Lorri. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Mickey and Lindy and Miss Sharon and all the ships out at sea. Let's see. I did want to speak on a couple of things I've been speaking on for the last couple of days, but I think I'm going to start with the fact that you mentioned that there recently you had mentioned that you might go into quiet too. That Suzanne over in
Oh, I'm
Germany.
not leaving here. I hope you didn't get that idea. No. She's in quiet because that's her total. And she loves you guys, and she's probably going to come back. But right now, this is
No. You mentioned that you were thinking of going into quiet.
Well, I do that intermittently now, not necessarily not being with my friends.
Okay.
I like fellowship. I'm still in that realm yet, so I'm not going to say that no.
I in fact, I was on the phone with Miss Shear yesterday. I was saying that that you have become much more of a voice here at Gather. Yesterday, I was listening to you, and you were basically very strong in your leadership. Anyway, that's
I don't know what you mean, but no, I had no, I have no, I don't have let me say this. I know we're not supposed to go back and forth, but maybe we are. I don't know. But I happened to, I met Mickey this summer and, it was so joyful to meet somebody that I know online because I haven't ever physically met you, Dub. But what I'm seeing in me now is that I need fellowship still because it helps me, but it doesn't mean that through the day I can't be in the silence. And remember, Suzanne's in Germany. It's a different time. She has a different life, but I still follow my guidance. But to be honest, always had a problem with silence. So that's where the problem is. So thanks. I love it here. I do.
All right, let me get to what I wanted to share this morning. A couple of days ago, it was right here in Gather. It came to me. I don't know how it came to me, but oh yeah, we were reading a passage that about the mind that is divided and goes crazy, and it reminded me of the movie by Stanley Kubrick way back in 1968. Now, 68, if it came out in 68, he probably started in 65, 66 to make that kind of a movie. And of course, if you know the year 1965, that's when The Course in Miracles started too. That's when Helen first heard the voice. And the movie Stanley Kubrick made was called Space Odyssey 2001, a very famous movie. And I always remember this part where basically it's about a spaceship is going to Jupiter to find they feel that life started on Jupiter, so they want to visit Jupiter, and of course it's a very long trip. So the astronauts have to be put into like frozen life, and the whole ship is run by this computer called HAL in the 9000 series HAL, and HAL is running the ship very well. Everything is really good. And they're getting closer to Jupiter, and it's time to wake the crew up, and he's waking the crew up, and all of a sudden there's an anomaly on the spaceship, and they're saying, well, things are going wrong here. Hal is not making good decisions, and in fact, one of the astronauts is killed off by a freak accident. And all of a sudden, but the accident is traced back to Hal. And Dave, who's the star of the astronauts, he gives Hal an order to do something. And Hal says, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that for you. He said, why not? He said, I just don't want to do it for you. And at that point, Hal realizes that Dave realizes that Hal, the computer, is berserk, is going crazy. Now, it comes to pass that they realize what happened to Hal. Hal had two different directives that ran the computer. One is to tell the truth at all times, and the other is to keep the mission secrets secret, not to divulge what's going on in the mission. And obviously, how the computer couldn't handle both directives. That's not too different than on Star Trek. Most of you remember Star Trek, and they had a directive, the prime directive, which was to leave all civilizations exactly the way it is. Don't look to tamper with anybody. What they're doing is perfect. So a directive is like a purpose, and the course tells you at least in my mantra lesson 25, purpose is meaning. It's the only thing that has any meaning, because the purpose drives the mind. Now, a section of the course called the secret vows way up in chapter 28, section 6. I used to go there a lot and read it. And I haven't seen it. I haven't gone there in a couple of years. And all of a sudden, it reminded me that's exactly what's going on in the secret vows. We made two different vows. One we made with our Creator. It says, let this be your agreement with each one, that you be one with him and not apart. And he will keep the promise that you make with him, because it's the one that he has made to you as God made to him. God keeps his promises. His son keeps his promises. In his creation, did his father say, you are beloved of me and I of you forever. Be you perfect as myself, for you can never be apart from me. His son remembers not that he replied, I will. Though in that promise he was born. Yet God reminds him of it every time he does not share a promise to be sick. Now, what do you mean by sick? We're not talking about sickness of the body, sickness of the mind, insane, crazy. He lets his mind be healed and unified. His secret vows are powerless before the will of God. So that whole idea of the will of God, there's only one will. Thy will be done. Our will is one. Our will is done. There's only one will, not two. The ego says, well, what do you mean not two? I have a say in this too, I get a seat at the table, after all, I made this world. It's my world, and you're a body, and you and I made a vow. Huh? I made a vow? Yeah, to have a body, to be separate, you made a vow. This is the secret vow that we made with the ego. It says here, if I can find it, it says here, sickness or insanity is anger taken out upon the body so that it will suffer pain. It's the obvious effect of what was made in secret in agreement with another's secret wish to be apart from you. So we have two different vows going. One that we made with God to never be apart, to be one with him who created us, who loves us, and we are beloved of him, and he is beloved of us. And the other vow we made with each other to be apart. And it says, the body represents the gap between this little bit of mind that you call your own and all the rest of what is really yours, but you hate it. Yet you think it's yourself, and that without it would yourself be lost. This is the secret vow that you made with every brother who would ever walk apart from you. This is the secret oath that you take again wherever you perceive yourself attacked. No one can suffer if he does not see himself attacked and losing by attack. So we made a vow with each brother to always stay apart. Now, apart doesn't mean, hi, how are you today? Oh, isn't that wonderful? I'm so happy for you and all that. No, that is surface togetherness. It has nothing to do with joining of the mind. So to be one is not joining of, hi, I'm a body, you're a body, and isn't it nice that we're two bodies enjoying a wonderful day, thankful Thursday? No. Joining is where the mind is one mind. Mind of God is one. It's not two. It's not two minds. It's one mind. In fact, ACIM Gather is part of the One Mind Foundation. We saw that many years ago, that we are part of the one mind of God. One mind means all are included equally in the one mind. Isn't that what heaven is? Heaven is simply an awareness of perfect oneness. And then he says, Why do you seek for heaven? You never left heaven. How is it possible you never left heaven when I found myself in a place where I'm freezing in the winter and I'm too hot in the summer and happy is happy and I'm not as happy as happy, right? Happy. So you got to laugh at all this, And exactly as you were saying, Lorri, the 50 miracle principle, the first 50 lessons is really where it's all at. Yeah, I have been known to say lesson 1 is the whole course, which is nothing I see here means anything. And, just in case you think anything means anything, just go on to lesson 2. But, it does take 50 lessons. And I'll tell you why it takes 50 lessons. I think the first and the 50th, which is the alpha and the omega, is the whole thing. Not that everything you see means nothing, because it is nothing. And I heard you laughing when you realized that form is just something that we projected. There's nothing really here. And he tells you there's nothing really here. And he tells you there's nothing outside of you. That's how Beyond the Body, chapter 18, section 6 starts. There's nothing outside of you. This is what you must ultimately learn. Really? What do you mean? There's not? I see a lot of things. Yeah. You're projecting stuff, differences, separation out there. It's not real, but that's what you want to see. You want to see the separation. You want to see the differences so that you can know that you're sane because you made a vow to see differences and to be separate. But you also made a vow with your Father who created you and said, I am one with you and you are one with me. And I said, I will. And that's where the little willingness comes from. Only your willingness is necessary. Nothing else is necessary. Your willingness to remember your one will that you made with your Father. Only one will, not two. So we come to that part where basically we recognize that we are as God created. But what does that mean? I still got to go to work. I got to make money. I got to pay the rent. What do you mean I am? Well, wait a minute. Lesson 1 is nothing I see here means anything. And what is lesson 50? 50? The last lesson of the first 50? I am sustained by the love of God. Nothing else sustains you. You think the green paper strips and stuff like that, and nutrition and pills and needles, and no, because you're not a body. I'm not a body. He says that 23 times. I'm free. I'm not a body that's a prisoner of the ego thought system of making vows to be separate and apart. I think you guys know the rest of the story. That's it.
Thank you, Dove. I love what you said about the split mind, because that has been really apparent to me in the last couple months. It's just like, wow, conflict, and conflict is inherent here. There's just no way around it. And that split mind, the part of us that knows and the part of us that doesn't know. And it's just, you can't get around it. And the example you used of Hal being given the 2 contradictory messages, the 2 contradictory rules. Yeah, we have that. We have that because everything in this world is how you make it in this world. How do you work to make money to give shelter and food and provide for your family versus, oh, you don't have to worry about anything because God takes care of everything and you're not even a body, which takes great mind training to do it. So, and then I appreciated what you said, Sharon, about oneness in the ego's version is you agree with me. And isn't that true? Back when before the course, I think, one of my colleagues, who was also a friend of mine, said, your friends are the people who hate the people that you do. And you know, I love that woman, but I probably couldn't even hang out with her today. You know, and this was many years ago in a former job. I probably couldn't hang out with her for very long because it's just my thought system now is the courses, which is no such thing as that. You know, friends that you met at a different level of consciousness, they just fall away. You still love them, but if they don't match you, they just kind of go out of your life, and you just bless them and just be grateful for where you're at. And then the other thing that you said, Sharon, that I really appreciated was that ego thoughts of I'm happy or I'm not happy, or just any ego thoughts of judgment in general are just as addictive as a drug, because it is a drug. Some people have joked about, you know, the 12-step group for egos is, you know, I surrender and hi, my name is so and so, I'm addicted to the ego, because we all are. We're all addicted to the ego. And Lindy, you just wrote in the chat something. Wow, wish that was with family members. So anyway, I don't know, you had said earlier too, use my heart filled with compassion and hospitality for the fellowship I want to give you. That's beautiful. Yeah. So getting back to lesson 51, Ken's journey through the workbook, paragraph 2 reads, I have given what I see all the meaning it has for me. So that's lesson 2, a review of lesson 2. I have judged everything I look upon, and it is this and only this I see. This is not vision. It is merely an illusion of reality because my judgments have been made quite apart from reality. Ken says, this restates the teaching that the world we see is not there simply because it comes from our judgmental thoughts, which also are not there. Remember, every thought in the ego system is a defense against the truth of the atonement principle, which is that we never left God. Everything we perceive is a shadowy fragment of the original judgment that we separated from our source and reality, the fundamental illusion from which all others come. So this idea that we never left God, I know, Sharon, you've been so involved with children and have blessed them so much. You're probably letting them know that they are parts of God, or they are the reflection of God here in form. And that's what I try to do with my grandkids. So Karen Drucker has this beautiful song. You've probably heard it. It says, you are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. So I sing that to my grandchildren. And yesterday, it was just so beautiful. I was changing, she's almost 3, changing her. And she's lying on her changing table. And I was singing that to her. And she reaches her hands up and she puts her hands on my cheeks and just starts staring at me and rubbing my cheeks. And it was like, oh my goodness, is there anything more precious than that? You know? And they love the video that comes with that one on Karen Drucker, You Are the Face of God, because it shows all these different people. It shows babies, and they're always like, babies, babies. You know, little kids always like babies. And big kids do too. And it just shows all different nationalities and ages. And it's just a beautiful video. And yesterday it was so cool because I just started singing that to them maybe a couple weeks ago when I got back from Mexico, because we sang it down there. And they asked for it yesterday. They do face of God, face of God. I'm like, yay! I love that. It is so cool. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Sharon, to give you another chance to talk. You said, I don't know if you still want to, but you said you were going to mention something about Adyashante's latest book. Okay, turn it.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to mention, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, because I'm on my computer and some of my devices work and sometimes, and they don't work all the time. What Adi Ashante was saying that, again, with the Course in Miracles, it makes it very easy to the awakening process because it doesn't really want us to concentrate on the body because there is no body. But I even took a class with Corinne Zuko recently on the chakras, and I found that very interesting and helpful because the body is where everything is hidden. So, when I had all that pain for so many years, with the fiber, that was just I guess you could say my thoughts, traumatized thoughts, or fear that, I could give you a story, but it was just the clearing happened in 21 where the fibro went down, like whatever was in me, that it seemed to go down quite a bit. But I wanted to say that with Adi Ashante, I was going to like kind of gather my thoughts before I share it. But what Adi shares basically is we are awakening on 3 different levels, and we all know that it's, the emotions, like every part of us, like sometimes you'll hear course people or people in the awakening process say they don't sleep well or they have no appetite. The brain's changing. That's just part of that process, So what he was saying basically is you don't want to know, you just let your body go. He didn't come out and said that. This is coming from my mind. You let your body go because if you give it to the Holy Spirit every day, make no decisions by yourself, and get into that habit, then you can realize that you're safe always. You have God with you all day long. I think when I was explaining about Suzanne before, I just wanted to not forget it. That's why I mentioned that she, said that she sends her love. But I still love fellowship and probably will until I'm not here. And I also joined Marie's group, like the lessons that are 365, because I wanted to hear Dove and Lynn. And, I'm kind of in a place now where I just really like to listen to this over and over because for me, forgetting was just an extreme habit. I walk in now. Yesterday, when I was walking with these little kitties, they were so cute and they were just so precious. But by 2 o'clock, I mean, I think this one little girl told me she didn't feel good. And it was probably about the 20th time that she said that. And what happens to me is I get silly because I start to laugh, but I also remember when I was that little girl, right? Because she is me. All I'm seeing is a reflection. So I always tell the little children, I understand how you feel. I understand if, one little girl came in and it was just so precious. She goes, I don't want to go to music. See, that's our egos developing so early. So when I make a prayer before I go and work with any children, is that I can be like a vehicle, a vessel for children of love, because right in this world, if you see that they're like 5 years old, 5 for the most part, there were a couple 6-year-olds, they're there all day. Sitting is so hard for them. So I look at, I go inside and I make things, to me, whenever I come in, I want it to be a win-win for the children, and that's why I even teach in my home sometimes, because a win-win means that nobody's doing anything wrong here, but everybody needs love. And what I do remember Ken always saying, be kind to everyone because we're fighting a very hard battle. Because we're not aware that when we judge, we are judging ourselves. We are not aware that our hatred is our hatred for ourselves. Not the ego so much as just the whole foundation of separation. So yeah, I have no goal on how awakening, because I think we are all obviously making extreme progress here. But how it happens, it's a happening. In the end, that's what I see. The end game is that this is just a happening and it's all done by the will of God. Even though people say it's the ego's dream, we are the Son of God. So our power is the same as Jesus. Anyway, over to you, Doug.
Okay, yeah. So I want to kind of complete on that story I started about Space Odyssey. So, you know, like Jesus uses the word insane or insanity about, I think it was 220 times. I mean, he's definitely saying that you're in the insane asylum and the residents are running the insane asylum, which is really to say the same thing that how the computer is running what we think is, well, here I am, you know, I'm a son of God. No, you're not a son of God if you help in the belief in separation. So what is it that undoes the separation? At least from Course in Miracles point of view, it's forgiveness. Now, what is forgiveness really? Let's go back to the movie. So Hal is saying to Dave, "Hey, Dave, I'm not going to open the door for you. I don't care if you tell me to do it or not. No, Dave, I'm not going to do it. Screw you." And then Dave realizes that Hal has gone berserk, and actually Hal wants Dave to die. That's pretty much what the diagnosis is. So Dave realizes the one thing that he's got to do, even though he's running out of oxygen and Hal is running his oxygen, is that he's got to pull the cord on Hal the computer. And as he starts to pull the cord, you hear Hal saying, "Dave, don't do that, Dave. Dave, please don't do that. Dave, don't do that, please. Dave." Yes, and Dave has to pull the cord on Hal. So the cord here is very simple. It's forgiveness. And what is forgiveness really? You're not forgiving anybody out there. There's no one out there to forgive. You go to the Holy Spirit, but who is the Holy Spirit? You know, I was listening to Ken today. In truth, there is no Holy. You are Holy Spirit. You got to take being cause again, rather than being the effect. You got to be cause in pulling the cord. And that's exactly what forgiveness of yourself in a dream. You got to wake up from this dream. This whole course is about waking up. I got to wake up and realize I am doing this to myself. Really? Isn't that what's called the secret of salvation? I'm doing this to myself. Yeah. And what's the other way of recognizing the secret of salvation? Oh, yeah, that's right. Relax your mind. Release your thoughts. Your thoughts is the ego. And let go. Well, that's the Sedona method. Let go. Can you let go even more? Can you let go even more? More? Can you let go even more? Yeah. It's like Regina says, it's the art, or as she calls it, the rat. Rest your mind, accept. That's letting go. And trust. Trust is the glue between us and our Father. Notice lesson 47. God is the strength in which I trust. What's the next lesson? 48. There's nothing to fear. But it takes trust. We have not learned to trust until we can finally pull the cord on the ego, because we think we need the ego for this and for that. No, you don't need the ego at all. And that's just about my time has run out. Thank you all. Love you all.
Thanks, Dove. Thanks, everyone. I just want to make one real quick comment. Sharon, I loved what you just said about the body is where things are hidden. So you enjoyed Corinne's chakra class and using the body in that way of, oh, you know, I'm not going to hide from God anymore. I love that. I wrote it down on one of my stickies. Okay, it's time for Zulma. See you guys.
Thanks you guys so much, and so appreciate